Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a short first impressions tutorial kind of thing on one of the new small Huda Beauty palettes. The one that I got is Mauve Obsessions and it looks like this. I don't really know whether you can tell, but like this is my palm, this is how big the palette is. So in terms of size, it's pretty tiny. Something that personally I'm not really bothered by because I don't really need a bunch of huge palettes to take up space in my makeup stash, but that's something that you would be concerned about, or you were expecting it to be slightly bigger. Then it's not, it's pretty tiny. These are the eyeshadows that it comes with, and I already can see that it's a bit dirty, god damn it. So it comes with a pretty decent mirror. And then these are the eyeshadows that it comes with. There were a couple of other eyeshadow palettes of this type, but I thought these are the types of shades that I would gravitate towards. So I got my palette from Huda Beauty. They currently have all of these small eyeshadow palettes in stock, and I got mine with a 15% discount because I just searched for like Huda Beauty discount codes online, and I was able to luckily find something because this costs £25. That's not exactly cheap in my opinion, especially when you consider the size of the palette. I mean, I know you get 9 eyeshadows, but it's not exactly a very cheap palette, and I wasn't really willing to pay anything above the 25 euros for it. So I'm pretty sure Huda Beauty offers free shipping on Huda Beauty products this month, so I was able to get the palette with free shipping and with the 15% discount. So in the end I only paid 25 euros for it, which is really the most I was willing to pay for this palette. The internet's been going pretty crazy about Huda Beauty's products, and I really just wanted to try something from her, just, you know, to get an idea of the brand a little bit. I wasn't willing to pay for her liquid lipsticks just because I've especially discovered lately that liquid lipsticks just are not my thing. False eyelashes, not my thing either. I wear false eyelashes like once in a blue moon. If I wear one for Halloween, then that's already the most I will wear during the year. And her previous eyeshadow palettes were, in my opinion, ridiculously overpriced. The first one I had no interest in. The second one I have been tempted by several times because the shades in there are actually really beautiful, and there are a couple of very interesting duochromes. However, the eyeshadow palette costs, I want to say something in the range of 65 to 70 euros, which in my opinion is pretty expensive for a mid-range kind of brand, because I don't consider Huda Beauty to be a very luxurious brand. And I figured, okay, there are only 2 reasons for which I would be willing to pay this amount of money, and one would be that the eyeshadows are of outstanding, groundbreaking, never seen before quality, which I don't think is the case because I've already seen other people's reviews. Yes, there are different textures, but as far as the formula, they're just eyeshadows, you know, they're good quality eyeshadows. And then the second like selling point for me would be the packaging. For instance, when Urban Decay releases something, I'm 50% of the time drawn by the packaging, and like if I look at the product inside, I'm like, yeah, I could probably dupe that in my collection, but the packaging is so pretty. And as far as the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette, so that second palette I'm talking about, is concerned, I wasn't impressed by the packaging. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people like the packaging on that palette, but personally I feel like I don't need to see someone's eyeballs on the eyeshadow palette packaging. And just to show you, because maybe some of you are not aware of it, but this is just a picture from the internet. So this over here is the eyeshadow palette itself, and this upper part here is the packaging. So basically those are Huda's eyeballs. They may be 3D, they may be 4D, they may be holographic, I don't give a shit. I just don't want someone's eyeballs on my eyeshadow palette. I just don't think that's aesthetically pleasing. My personal opinion, don't get me wrong. So as far as the eyeshadow palette packaging is concerned, I was very underwhelmed by that as well. So at this point in time, I am not willing to pay 70 euros for a Huda Beauty palette. So I figured these smaller ones, they look pretty decent, they're a good way to try the brand and to try the eyeshadow formula, which is really what I wanted to do. I think this pretty much wraps all I wanted to say about the palette itself. I'm not going to swatch it for you just because I've recently especially come to the conclusion that swatching eyeshadows don't really tell you much about how they're going to perform or apply on the eyes. I think the mattes, they need to be pigmented, they need to be soft, they need to blend nicely. The metallic and shimmery shades, need to pack a punch when you apply them on your eyelids, either with a glitter glue underneath or with a wet brush. I don't really believe in applying these types of eyeshadows dry anyway, so personally for me that's not a concern. So we're going to test out together how this eyeshadow palette performs. So if you would like to find out how I got this look and my first impression of the Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions eyeshadow palette, then please keep watching. Okay guys, so let's dig into the Huda palette. I've already primed my eyelids, and the convenient thing about this palette, as you can see, is that it actually does have a proper like transition shade. It has what seems like a nice brow bone highlight. There is shades for the crease and shades for deepening the crease, and there is three beautiful lid shades. So I'm just going to use this palette only as my for my makeup today, and we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to grab this shade over here, which is the obvious choice for a transition, I guess. Although the shade next to it could potentially be used as a transition as well, but I'm just going to go with this one. And let's see how these apply and blend out, because I'm super curious. So far this is applying quite well. It's not overly pigmented. It's not too powdery, nothing I haven't seen before in any case. And it's blending out nicely, but of course this is also not the type of shade where you expect to have problems with blending. So let's just continue building that color. Okay, so far everything applied really nicely. The next shade I'm going to go into is this one over here, which is the brow bone highlight, and nothing too crazy. I'm going to apply that here. This has a very nice soft texture and exactly the type of color that I personally like to use on my brow bone, because it is not too white. It has a little bit of that beige undertone to it. Next shade that we're going to take doesn't seem like a very deep kind of shade, but I really want to dig in it because I'm really curious about it. And it's this, I don't know, kind of like a brick red raspberry sort of color. I'm going to try to apply that in my crease and just see how deep it is, and probably we're going to have to deepen it with something else, but I'm just really curious about the tone of it. Oh, this is a really beautiful shade. Just applying that very lightly, like a light layer of that through my crease and blending it with the transition shade. Alright, the next shade I'm going to dip into is, I think I'm going to take this one over here to deepen the crease. We're going to save the deep burgundy red on the bottom in the corner for later, for the lower lash line. But I'm going to deepen with this guy here. So for the lid, I'm going to take these guys over here, this one towards the outer part of the lid, this one towards the inner part of the lid, and I think I'm going to try this one on the lower lash line together with this one. But the first thing I'm going to do is, you know the drill, we're going to take a little glitter glue. This is Fiorini's Pixie Epoxy. And I'm going to just pop that on the lid where I want the shades to stick to the best. So right here on the moving lid. I'm going to go into this one, like this on my finger. I'm going to pop that on the inner half of the lid. So far that's applying really nicely, but the metallic shades have like very soft creamy texture to them, so I didn't really think they would be problematic in it. Okay, I'm going to use another finger to dip into the pink shade, like this pinky champagne shade next to it, and apply that towards the inner part of the lid. Whoa, that's a pretty shade. That is gorgeous. God damn. I'm quickly going to wing a liner using my Physicians Formula 2-in-1 booster in the shade Ultra Black. Okay, I must say so far I'm really pleased with how these shadows applied. They look really beautiful, especially the combination of the two lid shades. I don't know whether you can see, but I think it looks really stunning so far. I'm going to move on to the lower lash line, and the first thing I'm going to do is take this NYX Faux Blacks liner in the shade... who knows? Let me find out. It's called Ox Blood. I'm going to pop that right here on my lower lash line, like so. I am going to take a small shader brush like this one, and I really want to try out this beautiful Ox Blood red over here. I'm going to pop that over the liner. And the last thing I'm going to do is, just because I'm super curious, I'm going to take this shade here, the red metallic type of shade, and I'm going to try to pop that on the inner part of the lower lash line right here. Also a little bit in the waterline, just because we don't really have another choice. Okay guys, so what are my final thoughts on the Mauve Obsessions Huda Beauty palette? I actually like it much more than I expected to. Honestly, when I got into this whole, shall I try Huda Beauty, shall I not, I didn't really expect to be really impressed by the palette, but I must say I'm actually really impressed, because I do really like how everything worked out together. I think this pink over here is probably one of the most beautiful pinks that I've ever seen, especially on myself. I generally think that pink eyeshadows don't really flatter me so much, and I really feel like this one has enough of those champagne tones, and it really stands out, and I'm really impressed by it. There was not a single eyeshadow that I had trouble blending out. Of course, I didn't work with all of the eyeshadows, but I honestly don't expect any of this to be a problem. So with this, I'm going to wrap up this short rambling session about the Mauve Obsessions palette from Huda Beauty. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and the likes, and I will see you in my next video.